Chapter 1. The Quiet Pool on Zephyria. In the uncharted vastness of the Zephyrian wilds, far beyond the realms that most spacefarers dared to tread, there existed a hidden sanctuary known to only a handful of indigenous tribes and whispered legends. This sanctuary was a pool, but not just any ordinary pool. It was a crystalline basin cradled by the ancient, jagged cliffs of the Azure Valley, where twin suns cast their light in a constant, soothing twilight, bathing everything in surreal hues of violet, blue, and pink. The pool itself was fed by subterranean springs that shimmered with a strange bioluminescent glow, illuminating the surrounding flora in iridescent shades that defied earthly color spectrums. Around its perimeter grew the lumulus vines, whose translucent petals pulsed gently with soft blues and greens, swaying in the alien breeze, as if breathing the very life force of Zephyria itself. This place had long been considered sacred by the native Namari tribe, a reclusive species of diminutive, winged beings no larger than a human's thumb, whose delicate, dragonfly-like wings shimmered with every color of the spectrum, so fragile that a careless gust could tear them apart. To the Namari, the pool was a portal of sorts, a conduit between the corporeal and the cosmic, where the veil between the material and the ethereal thinned, allowing visions of the stars and the past to unfold for those who dared seek its waters. On this particular day, the stillness of the pool was broken by a tension no one could have anticipated. Beneath the shimmering surface, a tiny figure flailed desperately, her slender limbs scrambling against the cold, alien water. Lyra, a young Namari no older than a few cycles of the Zephyrian moons, found herself caught in a sudden, violent current that swept her away from the shallows where she had been quietly drinking and communing with the waters. Her translucent wings fluttered weakly, each beat sending ripples across the pool's surface, but the force of the underwater current was relentless. Panic surged through her tiny body as she was pulled deeper into the abyss, her lungs aching, struggling to draw the precious breath that her fragile form so desperately needed. Her large, multifaceted eyes, reminiscent of a dragonfly's but shimmering with iridescent hues unique to her tribe, darted frantically, searching for any sign of escape, any refuge from the drowning silence that enveloped her. The water, though clear and beautiful from above, now seemed a merciless prison, cold and unforgiving. Lyra's thoughts raced, flickering between hope and despair. She recalled the old stories passed down by her elders about the pool's hidden depths, how it was said to harbor secrets and dangers alike, a place where even the bravest Namari feared to tread. Yet her curiosity had been too great, her desire to glimpse the visions of the cosmos stronger than any caution. As the current tugged at her with increasing strength, she felt her wings growing numb, her tiny body succumbing to the overwhelming force that threatened to drag her into eternal silence beneath the waves. Just as her consciousness began to waver, a sudden movement pierced the tranquil surface, a blur of determined motion that shattered the calm. Captain Jackson Hale was no stranger to danger. A seasoned explorer from Earth, his life had been one of traversing the unknown, seeking out new frontiers and forging bonds between humanity and the alien civilizations scattered across the stars. His presence on Zephyria was a testament to Earth's expanding reach into the galaxy, a mission to understand, to learn, and to protect. Clad in an advanced exploration suit designed for hostile environments, Jackson had approached the pool with reverence, marveling at its ethereal beauty and the strange tranquility it offered amidst the untamed wilderness. But then, as if fate itself had intervened, his attention was drawn to the subtle disturbances in the water, ripples that spoke of distress, a silent scream beneath the liquid mirror. Without hesitation, Jackson shed the constraints of caution. With a fluid motion honed by years of training, he dove into the pool, his powerful limbs cutting through the water with practiced ease. The alien fluid clung to him, colder than he expected, but it was the urgency of the moment that propelled him forward. Deeper and deeper he swam, eyes sharp behind his helmet's visor, until his gaze locked onto a tiny, struggling figure, no larger than his thumb, her delicate form illuminated by the glow of the spring's light. Lyra's shimmering scales glistened as she fought for each breath, her fragile wings flapping weakly in a desperate dance against the current. Jackson's hands closed gently around her, careful not to crush the delicate creature, his fingers steady but tender. He felt the faint heartbeat beneath his palm, rapid, frightened, yet stubbornly alive. With a powerful kick, he propelled himself upward, breaking the surface with a gasp as he carried Lyra safely into the air. The alien's tiny body convulsed once, coughing a sputtering breath as water escaped her lungs. Jackson's training kicked in. He cupped his hand beneath her minuscule frame and began administering a gentle rhythm, a makeshift revival in the midst of this strange and beautiful world. As moments stretched into what felt like an eternity, Lyra's multifaceted eyes flickered, and a shudder ran through her body. She blinked, the colors of her iridescent wings shimmering softly as life surged back into her. The panic that had once consumed her slowly ebbed away, replaced by a cautious curiosity about the towering figure who had just saved her life. Jackson carefully lifted her closer to his visor, speaking in the universal language of calm and kindness. "You're safe now," he whispered, his voice gentle but firm. "I won't let anything happen to you." Though the two were from worlds light years apart, one a tiny winged alien barely a speck in the vastness, the other a human giant clad in synthetic armor, in that moment, a silent bond was forged, transcending species and culture. Neither fully understood the implications yet, but both knew that this chance encounter would forever change their destinies. As the twin suns began their slow descent, casting elongated shadows across the valley, the pool settled once more into its quiet repose. But the story of the tiny alien who was drowning, and the human who had plunged into the depths to save her, was only just beginning. Jackson remained motionless for a moment, the tiny alien cradled gently in his hand as he watched her fragile form recover from the shock of near drowning. The soft luminescence of the pool cast iridescent reflections on his visor, illuminating the delicate scales of Lyra's body that sparkled like fragments of a forgotten galaxy. Her breathing steadied, slow and shallow, but there was a fire in her multifaceted eyes that spoke of willpower far beyond her size. It was in that instant that Jackson realized she was not merely a fragile creature of beauty. She was a survivor, one with a story begging to be told. The human lowered himself carefully to the water's edge, settling onto the smooth, warm stones that rimmed the pool as if inviting him to stay. Despite the alien environment, a profound calm washed over him, the gravity of the moment settling deep within his chest. He gently extended his other hand, inviting Lyra to perch upon his finger. Tentatively, she fluttered her wings, her tiny feet grasping the cool surface of his glove. Her wings shimmered faintly in response, casting a kaleidoscope of colors that seemed almost magical under the twin suns. Jackson couldn't help but smile beneath his helmet. "Can you understand me?" he asked softly, unsure if such a delicate being could comprehend his words. Instead of replying with speech, Lyra lifted her wings in a slow, measured rhythm, a silent nod. Her eyes seemed to search his, and in that gaze, Jackson sensed intelligence, curiosity, and a deep-rooted trust that transcended language. It was a fragile connection, but one that bore the weight of hope. As the sun dipped lower, the sounds of the Zephyrian wilderness began to swell around them. Distant calls of unknown creatures, the rustling of lumulus vines in the wind, and the gentle hum of the pool's bioluminescence. The tranquil setting was interrupted by the sudden, cautious approach of several tall, slender figures from the shadows, members of Lyra's tribe. They emerged silently, their own delicate wings folding tightly as they studied the human with wary eyes. The Namari elders, their wings tinged with the silver of age, approached carefully, their expressions a mix of relief and suspicion. Jackson slowly rose to his feet, raising a palm in peaceful greeting. One elder, her voice a melodic trill filled with ancient wisdom, spoke in the rhythmic tones of the Namari tongue, which Jackson's translator implant struggled to interpret but managed in fragments. "You have saved Lyra from the water's embrace. We owe you gratitude, Earthling." The weight of those words settled over the clearing like a blessing. For a species so reclusive, so protective of their sacred pool, to speak of gratitude was rare indeed. Jackson bowed slightly in acknowledgement. "I came here to explore, to understand your world, not to harm. If you allow me, I wish to learn from you." The elder's wings fluttered softly, a gesture Jackson took as acceptance, and thus began a tentative bridge between two vastly different worlds, forged in the quiet waters of Zephyria's sacred pool. Chapter 2. Unveiling the Tiny World. The days that followed were unlike any Jackson had ever experienced. The Namari tribe, cautious yet curious, welcomed him into their hidden enclave among the violet groves. Lyra, now fully recovered, became his reluctant guide, a tiny beacon of light flitting between towering trees that shimmered with alien pollen. Her wings left trails of sparkling dust in the air, and her voice, though too soft for Jackson to hear unaided, was rich with emotion and vivid storytelling, conveyed through a complex dance of gestures and colors from her wings, which the translator device began to decode with increasing accuracy. Through Lyra's eyes, Jackson glimpsed a world on the brink of extinction, one threatened not by war or conquest, but by the slow encroachment of unknown forces, toxic storms stirred by interstellar mining, invasive flora from off-world colonists, and a creeping apathy within the galaxy that threatened to overlook the fragile beauty of Zephyria. The Namari, with their tiny forms and delicate wings, had always lived in harmony with the land, guardians of knowledge and keepers of cosmic secrets, but their numbers were dwindling. One evening, as the twin suns set in a kaleidoscope of reds and oranges, Jackson sat by the pool, sharing stories of Earth and the vastness beyond Zephyria's skies. Lyra perched close, her iridescent wings folding carefully, eyes wide with wonder at the tales of spacefaring civilizations and machines that roared through the stars. Yet, beneath her fascination, there lingered a shadow, a fear that the arrival of humans might bring change too swift, too disruptive for her world to withstand. Jackson, sensing her hesitation, vowed silently to protect this fragile sanctuary and its tiny people. Yet even as he made this promise, a distant rumble shook the valley, the first ominous tremor in a chain of events that would thrust them both into a battle for survival, not just for the Namari, but for all who treasured the hidden wonders of the galaxy. The days melted into one another beneath Zephyria's twin suns, and Jackson found himself enveloped in a reality both breathtaking and fragile. The Namari tribe, despite their minute stature and delicate wings, were a people of extraordinary resilience and wisdom. They moved through the violet groves with quiet purpose, their translucent wings catching the light like stained glass, each flutter releasing motes of shimmering pollen that drifted on the warm air. Lyra led Jackson through their hidden villages, tiny homes woven from silken vines and lumulus petals, structures so small and intricate that they seemed spun from the very fabric of dreams. The architecture itself was a marvel, a harmonious blend of natural materials and alien craftsmanship, designed to coexist with the living world rather than dominate it. Jackson marveled at the intricate network of tunnels and aerial pathways the Namari had created over generations. The entire tribe was connected by an almost symbiotic relationship with the flora and fauna, a delicate balance maintained through rituals and deep knowledge passed down orally, or more accurately, through winged dances and melodic trills that echoed like music beneath the canopies. The translator device on Jackson's suit struggled initially to parse the complex language, but with Lyra's patient guidance, fragments began to emerge. Warnings about changes in the environment, stories of ancient cosmic visitors, and the sacred role the pool played as a nexus between their physical existence and the infinite cosmos. One evening, as the sky above shifted from the soft pastel light of dusk to the twinkling void of Zephyria's starry night, Jackson and Lyra sat beside the sacred pool once more. The bioluminescent waters glowed faintly, casting ripples of light onto their faces. Lyra's small form was nestled in the palm of Jackson's gloved hand, her wings folding and unfolding like a delicate ritual. She told him of the legends, of how the pool was believed to be a gift from the ancients, a place where one could glimpse the threads of fate and connect with the universe's deeper truths. But she also spoke of danger. Recent changes had made the waters turbulent, unpredictable, and the sacred visions harder to attain. Jackson listened intently, his mind racing with questions and possibilities. He realized that this world, though hidden and seemingly untouched by the wider galaxy, was on the precipice of upheaval. Off-world mining operations had begun encroaching on Zephyria's borders, disturbing the very earth beneath their feet and poisoning the waters that sustained life. Toxic clouds from these activities drifted ominously on the horizon, and strange new plants, invasive species from distant planets, took root among the native lumulus vines, choking their delicate beauty with alien aggression. The Namari's plight was a mirror of a far greater truth. The galaxy was expanding, its march often careless and destructive. And here, in the heart of this tiny alien world, that expansion threatened to extinguish a beacon of cosmic harmony and ancient knowledge. Jackson felt the weight of responsibility settle heavy on his shoulders. He was not just a visitor or an explorer anymore. He was a guardian, perhaps the only hope this tiny race had against the relentless tide of change. He vowed silently to use his knowledge, his technology, and his very presence to shield this sanctuary. Yet, beneath his resolve lurked a creeping fear that even his best efforts might not be enough. Lyra, sensing his turmoil, fluttered closer, her voice a soft, melodic trill that spoke more through emotion than words. Though fragile in form, her spirit was fierce and unyielding. She was a symbol of survival itself, and together, they would face whatever storms lay ahead. But fate had other plans. That night, as Zephyria's twin moons rose high, a distant explosion shattered the peace. A violent reminder that the cosmos beyond was coming closer, threatening not only the pool, the Namari, and Jackson, but the very essence of what it meant to be alive in a universe on the brink of transformation. The distant explosion echoed across the valley, its shockwaves rippling through the lumulus petals and shaking the delicate homes nestled among the violet groves. For a moment, the entire Namari village fell into stunned silence, the normally vibrant chorus of chirps and trills replaced by uneasy whispers and hurried flutterings of wings. Jackson stood, eyes narrowing beneath his visor as he scanned the horizon, the faint plume of smoke twisting against the twin suns' fading light. Whatever had detonated was unmistakably industrial, far too deliberate, too destructive for the natural order of Zephyria. Lyra's tiny body trembled in his hand, her multifaceted eyes wide with fear and confusion. She let out a series of rapid, melodic trills, conveying a flood of emotions that the translator device struggled to process: loss, desperation, and a fierce resolve. She was telling him that this explosion was not an isolated incident, but the beginning of an assault on everything the Namari held sacred. The mining corporations from the Outer Rim were moving in faster than anyone had anticipated, their machines clawing at the land, tearing through roots and veins of the planet like ravenous beasts. Jackson's mind raced. His mission had been one of peaceful exploration, scientific observation, but the lines had blurred. He now bore witness to a crisis that demanded action. The fragile balance between progress and preservation hung in jeopardy, and the Namari's survival depended on swift intervention. Yet the gulf between their worlds was vast. He was but one man in a galaxy teeming with forces far beyond his control. The Namari elders convened beneath the giant shimmerwood tree at the village's heart, their wings casting ethereal shadows as they spoke in solemn tones. Jackson could only catch snippets, but the message was clear. The pool, the sacred spring, was at risk, and with it, the spiritual lifeblood of the tribe. They implored him to help protect it, to stand with them against the tide of destruction. Lyra fluttered to Jackson's shoulder, her small voice steady now, filled with hope. She trusted him not just as a rescuer, but as an ally, a bridge between the alien and the human. The connection forged in the depths of the pool had blossomed into a fragile friendship, a pact that transcended species and scales. Together, they began to devise a plan to safeguard the sanctity of Zephyria's hidden oasis. Jackson knew the path ahead was fraught with peril. The mining conglomerates wielded technology far more advanced and ruthless than his own. But he also carried something they lacked: an understanding of the value of life, of balance, and the fierce courage of those who fight not for conquest, but for survival. With Lyra by his side, he would venture into the heart of danger, navigating political intrigue, alien wilderness, and the depths of his own humanity. Chapter 3: The Shadow of Machines. The morning sun cast long shadows as Jackson and Lyra set out from the village, moving swiftly through the dense alien forest toward the source of the mining operation. The air was thick with an unnatural haze, the sweet scent of lumulus vines replaced by acrid fumes and mechanical clatter. Towering machines loomed ahead, colossal, metallic behemoths that gouged the earth, their drills burrowing deep into Zephyria's sacred soil. The ground trembled beneath their relentless assault, and even the resilient lumulus vines wilted beneath the onslaught. Jackson crouched low beside Lyra, their forms dwarfed by the scale of the machines. He adjusted his suit sensors, scanning for weaknesses and patterns in the automated defenses. The mining conglomerate had deployed security drones, sleek, insect-like sentinels programmed to eliminate any intruders with ruthless efficiency. The challenge was daunting, but surrender was not an option. Lyra's wings flickered nervously as she whispered warnings in rapid trills, her voice trembling with urgency. Her people's sacred land was dying, poisoned by greed and ignorance. Jackson steeled himself, his hands tightening on the controls of his suit's advanced tools. Together, they would find a way to disrupt the machines, to reclaim the land and protect the pool that was the heart of the Namari's world. As they moved deeper into the mine's perimeter, Jackson felt the pulse of the planet beneath his feet, the slow, steady heartbeat of life fighting back against the cold steel of industry. It was a battle of contrasts, the ancient and the modern, the delicate and the brutal, the tiny alien and the human giant. In that moment, amidst the shadows of machines and the glow of bioluminescent flora, Jackson and Lyra understood that their fight was more than just for survival. It was a stand for the soul of Zephyria itself. The mechanical symphony of the mining operation was deafening. Every thrum of engines, every clank of steel against rock, echoed like a war drum beating a relentless rhythm of destruction across the once sacred grounds of Zephyria. Jackson and Lyra moved cautiously, weaving through thick patches of iridescent foliage that barely masked the stark intrusion of metal and oil stains seeping into the earth. The air was thick and heavy, a toxic haze that clawed at Jackson's suit filters and made Lyra's wings flicker with distress. She pressed close to his chest, tiny talons gripping the reinforced fabric of his uniform, as if drawing strength from his presence. Ahead, massive drilling rigs pierced the surface, their drills spinning with merciless precision, tearing into the planet's crust. Conveyor belts snaked across the landscape, hauling out gleaming crystalline ore that sparkled ominously under Zephyria's twin suns, promising unimaginable profit, but at the cost of ecological annihilation. Jackson's visor glowed with data streams, highlighting hotspots of radiation, chemical leaks, and the positions of the security drones that patrolled like sentinels of a mechanical empire. These sleek, spider-like automatons scuttled with unnerving speed, their optical sensors sweeping for any sign of unauthorized life. To them, Jackson and Lyra were intruders, threats to be neutralized. But the human's years of training and experience on countless worlds had honed his instincts. He ducked behind a shattered rock formation as a drone scanned the area with a sharp, blue laser. Lyra's wings shimmered faintly in the shadows, her eyes wide with fear, but filled with determination. They were here to protect a fragile legacy, the last bastion of a world not their own, and failure was not an option. Jackson activated a small device clipped to his built-in electromagnetic pulse emitter, capable of temporarily disabling the drone's circuitry without causing permanent damage. He waited for the patrol to pass, then triggered the pulse. The nearest drone's lights flickered and died as it crashed silently into the undergrowth. One by one, they fell, giving the duo precious minutes to move deeper into the operation's core. As they advanced, the devastation grew more apparent. Entire groves of lumulus vines were scorched black, their radiant petals wilted and lifeless. Pools of iridescent water were tainted with sludge, the lifeblood of Zephyria corrupted beyond recognition. Lyra's voice trembled as she described the sacred pool's connection to these waters, the source of her tribe's visions, and the spiritual essence of the land itself. If these waters were lost, the Namari's ability to commune with the cosmos would vanish, extinguishing an ancient bond that had endured millennia. In a desperate bid to save what remained, Jackson and Lyra pushed forward to locate the main control hub of the mining operation, hoping to sever the machine's power and halt the destruction. The hub was a fortress of gleaming steel and holographic interfaces, guarded by a squadron of drones more heavily armed and programmed with advanced combat protocols. Jackson's heart pounded with urgency. This was the crucible where their mission would be decided. Success meant salvation for Zephyria. Failure meant oblivion. Drawing upon every ounce of skill and resourcefulness, Jackson coordinated their attack with precision. Lyra's small size allowed her to slip past defenses, disabling security locks and feeding vital intel to Jackson, who used his suit's weaponry and hacking tools to dismantle the enemy's systems piece by piece. The battle was brutal and exhausting, a clash of technology and determination amidst the fading light of Zephyria's dying day. Finally, with a thunderous hum, the power grid flickered and went dark. The drilling ceased, and the monstrous machines ground to a halt, their mechanical hearts stilled by the duo's relentless efforts. In the sudden silence, the soft glow of bioluminescent plants began to return, faint but persistent, a sign that life, no matter how fragile, still fought to endure. Breathing heavily, Jackson looked down at Lyra, who shimmered with exhausted relief. Their journey was far from over, but this victory had rekindled a spark of hope not just for Zephyria, but for the unbreakable alliance forged between a tiny alien and a human who dared to dive into the depths for something greater than himself. The quiet that followed the shutdown of the mining machines was almost surreal. For a brief moment, the valley seemed to hold its breath, the harsh metallic echoes replaced by the gentle rustling of lumulus petals and the distant calls of native creatures cautiously returning to the land. Yet beneath this fragile peace lingered a deeper tension. Jackson knew that while they had won a critical battle, the war for Zephyria's survival was far from over. The mining conglomerates had resources, political influence, and fleets capable of overwhelming any resistance. But here, in this sacred valley, hope had been rekindled. Lyra fluttered up to Jackson's shoulder, her tiny wings glowing faintly with bioluminescent energy. Her voice was soft but resolute as she trilled words of gratitude and determination. She spoke of her people's history, how the Namari had once been scattered across multiple worlds, surviving cataclysms and cosmic upheavals, only to find sanctuary here on Zephyria. She shared legends of ancient protectors, guardians who, long ago, had sealed powerful forces within the pool, preserving balance between life and the vast cosmic unknown. Now, she said, it was up to them to awaken that legacy, to defend their home not just with technology or strength, but with the spirit of the ancients themselves. Jackson absorbed her words, feeling the weight of their meaning settle deep within his soul. His journey had begun as a mission of exploration, but it had become a crusade to preserve the sacred, the fragile, the beautiful in a galaxy too often ravaged by greed and indifference. Together, human and Namari, they prepared to face the challenges ahead, combining the best of two worlds to protect a future still unwritten. Chapter 4: Guardians of the Sacred Pool. The following weeks were a whirlwind of preparation and alliance building. Jackson and Lyra returned to the Namari village with renewed purpose. The tribe's elders convened, their iridescent wings shimmering in the moonlight as they crafted plans rooted in ancient wisdom and newfound technology. Jackson introduced carefully salvaged human tools, compact energy shields, non-lethal disruptors, and environmental sensors designed to detect any approach by hostile forces. The Namari adapted quickly, their small size allowing them to wield these devices with agility and precision. At the heart of their defense was the sacred pool itself. Lyra led Jackson there in the stillness before dawn, the water's surface reflecting the stars with uncanny clarity. She explained the pool's hidden depths and ancient energies, whispering secrets of the cosmic bonds that connected their fates. With her guidance, Jackson began to understand that their mission transcended mere survival. They were the last guardians of a bridge between worlds, a living nexus where the past, present, and future converged. As their defenses grew stronger, so did their resolve. Scouts warned of approaching fleets from the mining conglomerates, massive ships that darkened the skies like storms, bristling with weapons and cold intent. But Jackson and Lyra were ready. Using guerrilla tactics and intimate knowledge of the terrain, they led the Namari in swift, precise strikes, disrupting supply lines and sabotaging machines with minimal casualties. Each victory was a beacon, rallying other alien species in the sector who had suffered similar fates. In a final, climactic confrontation, the combined forces of Namari defenders and human technology faced the mining conglomerate's assault in the valley's shadow. The battle raged fiercely, a tempest of light and sound that shook the very cliffs surrounding them. Jackson fought alongside Lyra, their bond unbreakable, a symbol of unity and hope in the face of overwhelming odds. When the dust finally settled, the invaders were driven back, their ambitions crushed by a force neither expected. The fierce heart of a tiny alien saved from drowning, and the human who had dared to dive into the depths for her. Zephyria's sacred pool remained untouched, a shimmering testament to resilience, friendship, and the enduring power of life's fragile beauty across the stars. And as the twin suns rose anew, casting golden light over the valley, Jackson and Lyra knew their journey was far from over. But together, they would face whatever horizons awaited, guardians of a legacy written in the waters of an alien world. The dawn on Zephyria was unlike any other. The twin suns spilled molten gold across the valley, igniting the iridescent petals of the luminous vines and setting the pool's surface ablaze with flickers of sapphire and emerald. This morning felt different, charged with an unspoken promise, as if the very planet itself was holding its breath, waiting for what was to come. Jackson stood at the edge of the sacred pool, feeling the cool mist settle against his exploration suit. Lyra hovered nearby, her delicate wings casting shimmering shadows on the stones beneath them. Around them, the Namari tribe gathered, a congregation of tiny warriors and elders, their luminescent wings beating with steady determination. The preparations had been long and arduous, blending ancient rituals with cutting-edge technology, but every soul here understood the stakes. This was their home, their future, and the last bastion against obliteration. As the first mining fleet arrived, massive warships blotting out the sky like dark monoliths, Jackson's heart pounded with fierce resolve. The invaders brought weapons of devastating power, machines designed to raze worlds and extinguish life without mercy. But they had underestimated one thing: the spirit of a people who refused to surrender and the bond forged between a human and a tiny alien no larger than a finger. The battle was a symphony of chaos and valor. The Namari darted like living shadows among the trees, their wings a blur of light and motion as they launched coordinated strikes against the enemy's machinery. Jackson commanded from the front lines, deploying energy shields to protect the vulnerable, using precision disruptors to disable heavy weapons, and guiding the Namari in guerrilla tactics that turned the terrain itself into a weapon. Lyra fought fiercely alongside him, her small form a flash of iridescence as she darted through the fray, disabling enemy drones and rallying her people with trills that echoed like battle hymns. Together, they embodied the fusion of strength and grace, technology and tradition, a beacon of hope amid destruction. Amidst the battle's fury, the sacred pool remained untouched, its waters glowing brighter as if fueled by the courage of its defenders. Legends told of the pool's ancient power, a cosmic force that could awaken when its guardians stood united. As the fighting reached its crescendo, Jackson and Lyra made their way to the pool's center, channeling their combined energy and the hope of their people. A brilliant surge erupted from the water, a wave of radiant light that swept across the valley, disabling enemy weapons and disrupting communications. The invaders faltered, their machines stuttering as if struck by an invisible force. The tide of battle turned swiftly, and with one final, coordinated push, the mining fleet was driven back, retreating into the stars with a wounded pride. Silence fell over the valley once more. The Namari cheered, their wings casting shimmering patterns in celebration. Jackson lowered his visor, his eyes meeting Lyra's in a moment of profound connection. They had faced annihilation and emerged victorious, not just through firepower, but through unity, respect, and the unbreakable bond formed in the depths of a crystal pool. In the aftermath, the tribe gathered to honor their new protector. Jackson was no longer just an explorer. He was a guardian, a bridge between worlds, and a symbol of hope for all who valued the fragile beauty of life. Lyra perched on his shoulder, her wings folding gently as she whispered thanks in a language older than the stars themselves. Zephyria's sacred pool glimmered under the twin suns, a timeless witness to a story of rescue, courage, and alliance. And as the planet breathed anew, its ancient waters reflecting the endless cosmos, Jackson and Lyra knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together, guardians of a legacy born from the depths, where a tiny alien was drowning until a human dove in to save her. The echoes of battle faded into the soft hum of Zephyria's awakening life. The mining machines were gone, their invasive presence expelled by the fierce determination of a tiny alien and her human guardian. Yet, as the dust settled, Jackson understood that this victory was but a chapter in a much larger saga of survival, unity, and cosmic wonder. In the days that followed, the Namari tribe celebrated with quiet reverence, honoring the sacred pool that had once threatened to swallow their youngest, but now stood as a beacon of hope. Jackson found himself embraced not only as an ally, but as family, a bridge between two vastly different species whose destinies had become intertwined in ways neither could have imagined. Lyra, ever radiant with her iridescent wings, became a symbol of resilience, her story whispered among the stars as a testament to courage and compassion. One evening, beneath the glow of the twin moons, Jackson and Lyra returned to the pool's edge. The waters shimmered with an ethereal light, revealing visions of distant galaxies, ancient civilizations, and untold mysteries awaiting discovery. Together, they gazed into the depths, sensing that their journey was only beginning. The pool had granted them a gift, the chance to protect not just a world, but a legacy that transcended time and space. Jackson reached out, his fingers brushing lightly against Lyra's delicate wing. "We saved more than a life that day," he murmured. "We saved a future." Lyra's eyes sparkled with understanding, and in that shared moment, the vast universe felt just a little smaller, a place where even the tiniest beings could spark the greatest change. And so, on the vibrant world of Zephyria, where the sacred pool still rippled beneath twin suns, the unlikely guardians stood watchbound by trust, hope, and the unbreakable bond forged when a human dove into the depths to save a tiny alien.